Imagine you're on a first date. It's going great. The conversation is flowing, you're laughing, you're thinking, wow, this could actually be something. And then a little voice in the back of your head whispers that dangerous, cosmic question. You lean in, trying to sound casual, and you ask, "So, what's your sign?" Or maybe you've already found your person. You're madly in love, but after a silly argument, you find yourself secretly typing into your phone at 2 a.m. Why are Capricorns so stubborn? Or how to deal with a sensitive Pisces. We've all been there. Astrology is a part of our culture. It's a fun, sometimes spooky, and often comforting way to try and make sense of the single greatest mystery in our lives, love. It promises a cosmic cheat sheet, a secret map that can guide us to our soulmate and help us avoid heartbreak. The idea that our love story is written in the stars is a beautiful, powerful, and timeless fantasy. But what if it's not a fantasy? What if it's real? And more importantly, what if we could finally, once and for all, prove it? What if we could move beyond personal anecdotes and magazine horoscopes and put astrology on trial in the highest court of evidence, using the real lives, marriages, and divorces of tens of thousands of people? Well, prepare to have your mind blown, because that is exactly what we're going to do today. We are about to embark on a journey into a scientific bombshell, a study that took the biggest claims of astrology and held them under the most powerful microscope imaginable. And the results? Well, they might just change how you look at the stars and each other forever. Welcome, curious minds, to Summary Thought. Today we are cracking open a fascinating and monumental piece of peer-reviewed research called The Validity of Astrological Predictions on Marriage and Divorce, led by Professor Jonas Helgerts. Here's the incredible adventure we're going on together. First, we're going to step into the lab with the scientists and see how they created the perfect, ultimate experiment to test the stars, an experiment so clever it's almost like a time machine. Then, we'll use that time machine to answer the first giant question. Is there a cosmic magnet pulling certain zodiac signs together? Are people with compatible signs secretly fated to meet and get married more often? And finally, we will confront the biggest question of all. Do those made in heaven astrological matches actually last? Do the soulmate couples have a secret superpower that makes them divorce-proof? The answers are waiting for us, not in ancient texts, but in the cold, hard data of real human lives. This is astrology's final exam. Let's see if it passes. Part 1. Building the perfect cosmic time machine. So, how in the world do you even begin to test something as vast and mysterious as astrology? For years, it's been nearly impossible. Most horoscopes are so vague you can make them mean anything. And most studies are tiny, looking at maybe 100 college students who volunteer for a survey. That's not real life. To really put astrology on trial, you'd need a kind of superpower. You'd need the ability to watch an entire country's love lives unfold over decades. Well, Jonas Helgerts and his team found that superpower. They got access to something that sounds boring but is actually mind-blowing, a massive government database from Sweden. Think of this database not as a spreadsheet, but as the secret diary of an entire nation. For over 30 years, from 1968 to 2001, this database kept track of people's most important life events. Inside this secret diary, the researchers had the exact, verified information for hundreds of thousands of people, including 3 little details that would change everything. 1. Their exact date of birth, so they knew their zodiac sign for sure. 2. The exact date they got married. 3. And if it happened, the exact date they got divorced. From this treasure chest of information, they gathered the life stories of more than 66,000 married couples. This wasn't a survey where people could misremember things or tell little white lies. This was a rock-solid record of what actually happened in real life, on a massive scale. Now, you might be asking, why Sweden? And this is where the genius of the experiment really shines. Sweden is one of the most skeptical countries in the world when it comes to things like astrology. This is actually a huge advantage. If you test astrology in a country where everyone is a diehard believer, people might change their behavior based on what their horoscope says. A compatible couple might try extra hard to stay together, while a doomed couple might give up at the first sign of trouble, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. But in a place like Sweden, where most people are not picking their partners based on their zodiac sign, you can test the raw power of astrology itself. If astrology is real, it should work like gravity. It should have an effect on you whether you believe in it or not. By studying a population of skeptics, the researchers created the perfect, clean laboratory to see if the stars were secretly pulling the strings, even when no one was looking. The final step was to figure out what counts as a good or bad match. The scientists didn't make up their own rules. They went straight to the source, the big, popular astrology websites that millions of people visit every day for love advice. They took their compatibility guides, the ones that say, Aries and Leo are a fiery, perfect match, or Taurus and Aquarius will drive each other crazy, and used them as their official rulebook. They were testing the exact astrological advice that is out there in the world right now. The stage was set. The data was ready. The cosmic time machine was fired up. Part 2, the first great cosmic question. Do the stars choose who we marry? The first mystery the researchers set out to solve was about attraction. Is there a secret, invisible force, a cosmic magnet, that pulls certain zodiac signs together? If astrology is right, then when we look out at the world of married couples, we shouldn't see a random mix of signs. We should see a clear pattern. We should find way more compatible couples, the Aries and Leos, the Cancers and Scorpios, than you would expect by pure luck. And we should find far fewer incompatible couples. Imagine you're in a giant celestial candy store with 12 different types of candy, one for each zodiac sign. If you were to randomly scoop up pairs of candies all day, you'd get every possible combination roughly the same number of times. But what if the Leo candies had a secret magnetic pull to the Sagittarius candies? At the end of the day, you'd look in your bag and find a huge number of Leo-Sagittarius pairs, far more than any other. That would be proof of a special connection. This is exactly what the scientists did, but with their 66,000 married couples. They used simple math to calculate how many Aries-Leo couples, Aries-Cancer couples, and every other of the 144 possible pairings they should find if love was just a random lottery. This was their expected number. Then, they looked at the real-life data from the Swedish diary to see the actual number of those couples that existed. They held their breath, ran the analysis, and looked at the results. Was there a cosmic magnet? Were the stars playing matchmaker? The answer that came back from the data was a deafening silence. There was absolutely no pattern. None. The number of compatible couples they found in the real world was almost exactly the same as the number you'd expect from pure, random chance. The soulmate pairings didn't happen any more often than the doomed pairings. It was a perfect, random mix. In some cases, they even found a tiny, statistically meaningless blip where there were slightly more of the supposedly bad matches. The evidence was crystal clear. When it comes to the person you choose to build a life with, the stars have nothing to say about it. There is no cosmic magnet. There is no invisible pull. People were falling in love with people, not with signs. It was a massive blow to the claims of astrology, but the researchers were just getting started. They were about to ask the question that truly matters. Part 3. The ultimate cosmic showdown. Do soulmate couples actually last? Okay, so the stars don't decide who we fall in love with. Maybe we do that all on our own. But this is the biggest promise of astrology, isn't it? That it can tell you if your love will last. That it can predict harmony or heartbreak. Even if we choose our partners randomly, surely the astrologically blessed soulmate couples should have a secret superpower. They should be happier, fight less, and, most importantly, be divorce-proof. This is where the scientists fired up their time machine to full power. They didn't just look at a snapshot of marriages. They followed all 66,000 couples through the years, watching their stories unfold. They watched as some couples celebrated their 10th, 20th, and 30th anniversaries. And they watched as, for about 15,000 of these couples, the love story sadly came to an end in divorce. Using their powerful statistical tools, they could ask a very precise question. Did the couples that astrology websites called a great match or most compatible have a lower risk of getting divorced than the couples called a bad match? First, They tested a simple system, the kind you see everywhere. It basically sorted couples into just two boxes, good match and less good match. It was a cosmic thumbs up or thumbs down. They ran the numbers, expecting to see the good match couples sailing through life with low divorce rates. But what did they find? Nothing. The couples with the cosmic thumbs up were divorcing just as often as everyone else. It made no difference at all. But the scientists were like master detectives. They knew one test wasn't enough. After all, not all astrologers agree, right? One website might say you're a perfect match, while another says you should run for the hills. So, the researchers decided to put all the different types of astrological advice on trial, one by one. So they moved on to a more detailed system from another popular website. This one wasn't a simple yes or no. It was a kind of rating scale, with 4 levels of chemistry, starting at low compatibility and going all the way up to the ultimate prize, high astrological affinity. This had to be it, right? A couple with high affinity should be rock solid, practically unbreakable. But when the scientists looked at the real-life divorce rates, the results were a total mess. There was no predictable pattern. In some cases, couples with so-so rating were lasting longer than couples with a good rating. The detectives didn't give up. They found another website that got even more specific. It gave couples a numerical compatibility score, like a grade on a test, from 10 to 92. Surely, a couple who scored a 90 out of 92, a cosmic A+, would have a way lower divorce rate than a couple who scored a miserable 20. This was the clearest test yet. And the result? It was the most shocking of all. The score had zero effect. A couple with a high score was no safer from heartbreak than a couple with a low score. The grade on your cosmic love test was completely meaningless. They kept going, growing more relentless with each test. They analyzed another system that sorted couples into not favorable, favorable, and great match. They even tested a system from a Swedish astrology site that rated couples with a number of hearts, from 1 to 6, just like a restaurant review. And every single time, no matter how they defined compatibility, whether it was a thumbs up, a star rating, a number, or a heart, the result was the same. The universe stared back at them with a blank face. The so-called soulmate couples were divorcing just as often as the couples that were supposedly doomed from the start. A couple's zodiac signs had virtually zero power to predict whether they would live happily ever after. Now, in their exhaustive search, they did find one tiny, interesting anomaly. Out of all the dozens of tests they ran, in one single model, for one single website's compatibility system, the most compatible group showed a 5% lower risk of divorce that was actually statistically significant. Could this be it? The one shred of proof? This is where the scientists have to be careful not to fall into a very common trap. And they explained why this one positive result wasn't exciting, but was actually expected. Think of it like this. Imagine you have a friend who claims they can predict a coin flip. To prove it, they say, I'm going to flip this coin until I get 10 heads in a row. Now, if they do that for hours and hours, flipping the coin thousands of times, eventually, just by pure, random, dumb luck, a streak of 10 heads will happen. When it does, is that proof they're psychic? Of course not. It's proof that if you try something enough times, even a 1 in a million chance will eventually pop up. That one successful prediction is what scientists call a fluke, a random statistical accident. The researchers in this study ran dozens and dozens of different tests, analyzing the data from every possible angle. They were flipping a lot of cosmic coins. So, finding one single, tiny result that looked like a win for astrology wasn't a surprise. It was practically inevitable. It was the 10 heads in a row that was bound to happen eventually. Given that every other piece of evidence in their massive, powerful study screamed that astrology had no effect, this one tiny result wasn't a clue. It was a statistical mirage. The final verdict was in. The paper's conclusion is simple and devastatingly clear. The results fail to provide any consistent evidence to support the notion that astrologically more compatible couples are either overrepresented among observed marital unions or associated with a lower risk of divorce. Part 4, our love story is not in the stars, it's in us. So, after this incredible journey with summary thought, what have we discovered? We've seen Jonas Helgertz and his team conduct one of the most brilliant and definitive takedowns of sun sign astrology ever performed. Using a cosmic time machine built from the real lives of over 66,000 couples, they put astrology's biggest claims to the ultimate test. And astrology failed. Spectacularly. It turns out there is no cosmic magnet drawing you to a specific zodiac sign. And there is no magical, star-given shield that can protect your marriage from divorce. The beautiful, chaotic, wonderful, and sometimes heartbreaking story of love is far too complex and human to be predicted by the time you were born. So, if the stars aren't writing our love stories, who is? We are. Our love story isn't written in the constellations. It is written in the 1,000 small choices we make every single day. So the next time you're on a date, maybe don't ask about their sign. Ask about their passions and what makes them laugh. And if you're in a relationship, don't look to the stars for answers. Look to the person sitting right next to you. The greatest cosmic power in the universe isn't orbiting out in space. It's right here, in the incredible, resilient, and loving human heart. If this journey into the heart of science and the stars sparked your curiosity and made you think, then join our tribe of thinkers. The greatest adventures are the ones we take with our minds, and we'd love for you to be a part of ours. Gently press that like button, subscribe to Summary Thoughts so you never miss another deep dive into a world-changing idea, and share this video with anyone who's ever looked up at the night sky and wondered what it all means. Thank you for your time and your brilliant mind. See you soon again.